This is Vicki Robinson, and today I wanted to show you how you can make some changes to the way your Photoshop Element workspace looks. Some customization that you can do to put the panels that you use most often right up at your fingertips. Now, what I'm going to show you today, I know that you can make these kinds of changes in versions as old as Photoshop Elements 2013. I'm not sure if they're available in versions prior to that, but you can take a look and see. Now, I'm in Photoshop Elements 2020, and as you can see, I'm in the expert mode, which is where you need to be able to make these changes. And of course, you know that you have your toolbar here on the left-hand side, and Elements doesn't give you much that you can do about that. However, what you see on the right-hand side of the screen, you actually can change. What you see right now is just the Layers panel. And I'm sure that you know that if you wanted to access your color swatches or your styles or effects panels, you can come up to the window menu and you can choose one of those panels to display. Let's just say the Styles panel. And obviously you could do that if you like, but what you notice is that instead of seeing the Layers panel, you are now seeing the Styles panel. So let's go back and put back here and do our Layers panel. So you can see that as you choose these, it is replacing the panel, the stationary panel on the right-hand side of the screen. What I want to show you is how you can put some other panels up here that might make your work just a little bit easier. To do that, I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom of the screen. There is a blue folder that says More, and right next to that, there's a down arrow. It's a little hard to see and could be a little tricky to click, but you want to click on that little down arrow right next to that, and you'll get. Now, if you get this, it means you missed the little down arrow. You got a bunch of other panels. That's what's in More. What you want to do is come back and click on this down arrow, and you'll get a dialog box that lets you choose Custom Workspace. And now what you'll notice is that instead of just the Layers panel, you now have immediate access to the Effects panel, the Filters panel, the Styles panel, and graphics panels. Graphics are just some files that Photoshop Elements provides to you. I don't find them very useful, so for my first customization, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that little tab that says Graphics, and I'm going to drag that window out. Then on this little tiny hamburger menu down here, I'm going to say Close, because I don't care about my graphics panel. And if I ever want to come back to it, I can always come up to the Windows menu here and choose Graphics. So I see that I have my Styles panel, so I'm going to click and I'm going to drag the Styles panel out here. I also have all these wonderful filters here, and frankly, I don't use the filters very much. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull my filters out, and I'm going to say to close that, remembering that if I want them back, I can always come back to the Windows menu to get them back. I also don't find that I use my effects panel very much, every once in a while, but really not something I ever use. So again, I'm going to pull that one out, and click and drag, and then say close. Now that's left me with my Layers panel, which is where I started before, and my Styles panel. But I also would like to see my color swatches. So here's my color swatches. It opens up with a whole bunch of other panels, and I'm going to just pull my color swatches out. Now for me, I like for my Layers panel always to be long and for it to show me as much as possible. But I also like to have my styles available. So I'm going to take my Styles panel and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it until you see this light. Can you see this dark blue line here that comes? Move it away. You see my Styles panels right there? Move these out of the way for you. And now I've got my Styles panel up and active so that I can see whatever styles I have loaded. I also liked my color swatches available, and but I don't need my whole panel for this, so I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to hold my color panel down here, color swatches down, till I see that blue line there, and then as you can see, Elements has nested my color swatches in with my styles. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hover my cursor right in between the dividing line between the styles and the color swatches. And then when it's got a double-headed arrow, I'm going to click and drag up so I can see more of these and not so many of the styles here. I have a set of color styles here that go with one of my kits. Let me go ahead and put that in because it's easy for you to see. So far I've now put my styles, made them easier to find, and my color swatches. I think I like my layers to be closer to my work. So I'm going to click and drag this whole layers panel, and I'm going to let go when I see this dark blue highlighted line here. I'm going to let go. Oops, it attached it to my styles. That's not where I wanted it. Let me try again. I'm going to click down on the word layer and drag it out. And then I'm going to drag it along the left margin of these panels. And there you go. So now I've got my layers panel where I can see everything that's here. I've got my style panel and my color swatches. This little pop-up box, all of these other panels here are the same panels that you see available up here in your Windows menu. So if any of these are things that you like to use, you can also drag them out and attach them, dock them, if you will, somewhere here along your workspace. The one that I find myself using most often is the history panel, because you can go back and retrace your steps in history. Go back and do a couple steps previous if you've added some steps you don't like. So I find that very useful too. And I'm going to click and I'm going to drag that one right next to my layers panel. I don't really need any of these other things. Take a look. If you like, there's an information panel. There's a navigation panel that allows you to take a look and see more, zoom in really far and zoom out on your workspace to see what you've got. If you've got some favorites marked, there's a panel for that. There's something called a histogram, which we won't go into. And there's the action panel. But again, as I said, all of these panels are available up here in the Windows menu at any time. And since I don't use these on a regular basis, I'm going to keep my workspace only to what I really like to use. So I'm going to come to this little hamburger menu, drop down and say, close this tab group. There you go. So now I've got my workspace more suited to the way I work, but there are a couple of more changes that you may or may not want to make to your panels, and I'll let you be the judge, but let me just show you what some of my favorite things to do are. Each of the panels that are here, let me click on my layers panel, has a little tiny hamburger menu up here. That's what they call those little lines with the drop downs, called a hamburger menu. I don't know why, maybe because it looks like lines sandwiched in other lines. Anyway, if I click on my layers panel and then click that little drop down arrow on that hamburger menu, what you'll see is an option to go into panel options. And let's click on that so you can see what this is doing. This dialog box is letting me choose how much of the thumbnail of my layer is going to show here in this little window here when I've got something there to display. Right now it's set to medium, but I have really old eyes. I'm going to set this to large. And the other thing I'm going to do is set this to layer bounds instead of entire documents. I'm going to say okay, and then I'm going to show you what the difference is. Let me go ahead and choose my shape tool. Here is the rectangular shape tool, and I'm just going to click and drag out this shape on this screen. So now you can see in my layers panel that that shape icon is filling the layer. I can easily tell what that is. Let me go ahead and choose a custom shape down here. Let's draw another one. Let's make this a different color here. Let's make this one pink here, and let's draw this star. And maybe move it down here. Oops, it didn't go pink. That's okay. You can see them both. Okay, so you can see right now that both of these shapes are very distinct in my layers panel. Go back and show you this hamburger menu here, and let's choose panel options. And now let's say we want to display this as a medium size icon. Well, actually, let's do a medium size icon is what it was before, and let's turn this back to entire document instead of layer bounds and say okay. So what we've done now is we said, when you're showing me the layer items in the layers panel, show me the icon, an icon for that layer, show it in a much smaller size, and show me the position of this element on the layer. So you can see this is showing me that this star is in the lower sort of mid left corner of the document. And it's showing me that the rectangle is basically in the middle of this layer. So it just depends on how you like to work and how many layers you typically have. For me, it's easier to come back to this menu and change the panel options to give me the largest icon it can give me in the layers panel, and also to show me just the layers bound, so I know how much so I know exactly what the edges of this element are. When I say okay, you'll see the difference here. Okay, so it didn't change anything that you're seeing here. It's simply just changing the way the layer panel displays the contents of your layer. And like I said, it's total preference how you prefer to work. So that's one option to change. The other thing that you can change that I really love is that the hamburger menu here on the styles panel, if I click on that, I have an option to show the names of the styles. So it's added the name. In case you're wondering what the difference is, many times the name will tell you. If that's not clear enough for you, if you can't exactly read what the name is, usually if you mouse over here carefully, you can get a little tooltip will pop up and says, there you go, it says put a little love in it, that's the green color. But the other thing that you can do, if you prefer, is you can choose whether you're looking at a small thumbnail view, whether you're looking at a medium, or you're looking at a large thumbnail view. So again, it's totally up to you how you want to view these, but Photoshop Elements does give you options. The same thing on the color swatches. The little hamburger menu here, you can choose a small, a large thumbnail, and you could even do them in a list form so you can see that the color names that are assigned to those color swatches. So it really is up to you. There's a lot of different things you can do to customize your workspace in Photoshop Elements, and these are a few of my favorite tricks. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a like or a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, leave it for me in the comments below. Thanks for watching.